My water just broke at his engagement party. His fiancée is screaming because her fake pregnancy bump just fell off. And now everyone knows the truth. The real baby is mine. Maya Rodriguez had been on her feet for 14 hours straight. As the lead event coordinator at the Grand Meridian Hotel, tonight's charity gala was her biggest event yet. 500 guests, including some of the city's most influential billionaires. She was exhausted, running on coffee and adrenaline, when she turned a corner with a tray of champagne flutes and collided directly into a wall of expensive suit. The champagne went everywhere, all over his custom Tom Ford tuxedo that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Maya's heart stopped. She looked up, apology already forming on her lips, and found herself staring into the most intense gray eyes she'd ever seen. Damien Cross. Everyone knew who he was. Tech billionaire, youngest self-made fortune in the city, and absolutely off-limits to someone like her. I am so sorry. Oh my God, your suit. I'll pay for the cleaning. She stammered, grabbing napkins and making it worse. But he was laughing. Actually laughing. Not the polite chuckle rich people gave, but a real, genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. It's just a suit, he said, his voice warm and deep. I have 20 more exactly like it. You, on the other hand, look like you're about to collapse. When's the last time you ate? Maya blinked. Was a billionaire showing concern for her? I don't remember. Maybe breakfast? That's criminal. He glanced at his watch, then at the ballroom behind them, where the gala was in full swing. I've made my donation, shown my face. The food here is terrible anyway. There's a taco truck 2 blocks away that makes the best al pastor in the city. Come with me. She should have said no, should have remembered her place, her 3 jobs, her mountain of student debt, should have remembered that men like Damien Cross didn't notice girls like her except when they spilled drinks on them. But something in his eyes, a loneliness that mirrored her own, made her whisper, okay. They snuck out the service entrance like teenagers ditching prom. He was right about the tacos. They were incredible. They sat on a park bench, him in his champagne-stained tuxedo, her in her sensible work heels, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about the pressure of running a billion-dollar company at 32. She told him about putting herself through community college while supporting her sick mother. For 3 hours, they weren't a billionaire and a hotel coordinator. They were just Maya and Damien, 2 people who'd been lonely for far too long. The city sparkled below them from the rooftop of his penthouse. Maya knew she should leave. It was past midnight, and she had an early shift, but she couldn't make her feet move. Damien stood beside her at the glass railing, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. The air between them crackled with electricity. I haven't laughed like that in years, he said softly, turning to face her. Everyone in my world wants something from me. Money, connections, favors. But you just wanted to make sure I wasn't angry about my suit. Maya's breath caught as he reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I should go, she whispered, even as she leaned into his touch. Should you? His thumb traced her jawline and she shivered. Or do you want to stay? She should have been smart, should have protected her heart, but when his lips met hers, soft and questioning, all her should-haves disappeared. She kissed him back, pouring all her loneliness and longing into it. He groaned against her mouth, pulling her closer, and suddenly they were stumbling inside, a trail of expensive clothing marking their path to his bedroom. They made love slowly at first, exploring each other like they had all the time in the world. His hands were reverent on her body. tracing the scar on her shoulder from a childhood accident. "Beautiful," he whispered against her skin. "Every part of you." She mapped the tension in his muscles with her fingers, kissed the worry lines on his forehead, and for those perfect hours, she made his demons quiet. The second time was desperate, urgent, both of them knowing Dawn would break the spell. Maya arched beneath him, gasping his name as waves of pleasure crashed over her. He buried his face in her neck, whispering words she couldn't quite hear, but felt in her soul. They fell asleep tangled together, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. When Maya awoke, sunlight was streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. She was alone. The sheets beside her were cold. On the nightstand sat a handwritten note and a stack of $100 bills, 50 of them. "Maya, last night was incredible, but I'm not ready for this. I'm sorry. D." She stared at the money, something dying inside her chest. $5,000. Payment for services rendered. That's all she'd been. A transaction. With shaking hands, she dressed in last night's clothes, left the money scattered across his pristine white sheets, and walked out. She kept the note, a reminder never to mistake a billionaire's loneliness for something real. 6 weeks later, Maya's life had returned to its exhausting normal. She'd picked up extra shifts at the hotel to distract herself from thinking about Damien, from the way he touched her like she was precious, from the cruel morning that proved it was all a lie. She told herself she was over it, over him. Then she missed her period. At first, she convinced herself it was stress. She'd been working 70-hour weeks, barely sleeping, living on coffee and anxiety. But when the second week passed with no signs, dread settled into her stomach like a stone. She couldn't be. They'd used protection. But she remembered one moment, in their desperate second round, when they'd been too lost in each other to... No. Maya bought 3 different pregnancy tests from 3 different pharmacies, too paranoid to buy them all in one place. She waited until her roommate left for work, then locked herself in their tiny bathroom with shaking hands. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. When she finally looked, all 3 tests showed the same result, 2 pink lines. Positive. She was pregnant with Damien Cross's baby. Maya slid down the bathroom wall, hugging her knees to her chest. She made $32,000 a year working 3 jobs. She lived in a 400-square-foot apartment with a roommate. Her mother's medical bills had drained her savings. How could she afford a baby? How could she do this alone? And Damien, God, what would she even say? "Hey, remember that night you paid me to forget? Well, surprise!" He'd probably think she was trying to trap him, some gold digger looking for a payday. The memory of those $100 bills burned. He'd already made it clear what he thought she was worth. For 3 days, Maya war with herself. She had options, she knew that. But every time she thought about ending the pregnancy, her hand would drift to her still flat stomach, and something fierce and protective would rise in her chest. This baby wasn't a mistake. This baby was hers. She decided she wouldn't tell him, couldn't tell him. She'd figure it out somehow. Pick up more shifts, move to a cheaper place, ask her aunt if she could crash there until she got on her feet. Women had been doing this alone for centuries. She could too. Maya was researching prenatal vitamins on her phone during her break when she heard his voice in the hotel lobby. Her blood turned to ice. She peeked around the corner and saw him, Damien, looking as devastatingly handsome as ever, in a charcoal suit checking in for some corporate event. Their eyes met across the marble lobby. His face went pale, then flushed. He started toward her, but Maya panicked and fled into the back offices, her heart hammering. She couldn't face him. Not yet. Not until she figured out what to say. Maya spent the next week living in constant fear of running into Damien at the hotel. She switched to the night shift, took her breaks in storage closets, and avoided the main lobby entirely. Her morning sickness was getting worse. The smell of the hotel's signature coffee blend made her gag, and she'd started keeping crackers in her pockets. She was 12 weeks along when she finally worked up the courage to tell him. She'd rehearsed the words 1,000 times. "I'm pregnant. It's yours. I don't want money, but I thought you should know." Simple. Direct. No expectations. Maya found out his office address, the gleaming Cross Tech Tower downtown, and called to make an appointment. His assistant was polite but firm. Mr. Cross was booked solid for the next 6 weeks. Could this meeting wait? No, Maya said. It couldn't. The assistant promised to pass along the message. He never called back. Maya tried 3 more times, each attempt more humiliating than the last. She even showed up at the building once, but security wouldn't let her pass the lobby without an appointment. "Mr. Cross gets a lot of visitors," the guard said, with a knowing smirk that made her skin crawl. She left before she started crying. Fine. If he didn't want to know, that was his choice. Maya threw herself into preparing. She found a free clinic that offered prenatal care. She started saving every penny, hiding cash in a shoebox under her bed. She researched affordable daycares, government assistance programs, parenting books from the library. At night, alone in her room, she talked to her growing belly. "It's just you and me, baby, but I promise I'll be enough." Then, on a random Tuesday, while grabbing lunch between shifts, Maya saw it. A news alert on her phone. Tech billionaire Damien Cross announces engagement, expecting first child. The world tilted. Maya grabbed a bench, her vision swimming. No, that couldn't be right. She clicked the article with trembling fingers. There was a photo of Damien with a stunning blonde woman, Victoria Ashford. The article identified her, his ex-fiancée from college. They were smiling at a press conference, his hand protectively cradling her barely visible baby bump. The article said Victoria was 3 months pregnant. The timeline matched perfectly with Maya's night with Damien. "We reconnected a few months ago and realized we'd never stopped loving each other. When we found out about the baby, we knew it was meant to be." Maya read the words again and again, but they wouldn't make sense. 3 months pregnant. He'd gotten his ex pregnant around the same time, maybe even the same week as their night together. While Maya had been agonizing about whether to tell him, he'd been with Victoria, starting a family with someone else. The betrayal was worse than the morning he'd left money on the nightstand. At least then, she'd just been a mistake. Now she was, what, a dirty secret? The poor girl he'd slept with while his real relationship was on a break? Maya watched Damien's engagement interview on the small TV in her apartment's common room, unable to look away even though every word felt like a knife. He looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy in a way he hadn't been with her. Victoria sat beside him, glowing in a cream designer dress that probably cost more than Maya's car, her hand resting on her stomach. "How did you two reconnect?" the interviewer asked. Damien smiled, squeezing Victoria's hand. "We ran into each other at a charity gala about 3 months ago. It felt like fate. We'd both grown up, figured out who we were. This time, we were ready." He looked at Victoria with such tenderness that Maya's stomach turned. "And when Victoria told me about the baby, I knew I wanted to spend my life with her." Maya's roommate, Jess, found her crying on the couch at 2 a.m., the interview replaying on her laptop for the 4th time. "Honey, why are you torturing yourself?" Jess asked gently, sitting beside her. I slept with him, Maya whispered. That night of the gala they're talking about, we spent the whole night together. He made me feel, and then he left money like I was a... Her voice cracked. And now he's having a baby with her? She's 3 months along, Jess. Same as me. Jess's eyes widened in understanding. Oh, Maya, does he know about yours? I tried to tell him. He wouldn't take my calls. Maya laughed bitterly. Guess I know why now. He was busy playing happy family with her. The weeks that followed were the hardest of Maya's life. Her body was changing. Her jeans didn't fit anymore. Her breasts were tender. Exhaustion hit her like a truck every afternoon. But she had to keep working, keep smiling at hotel guests, keep pretending everything was fine. She'd see photos of Damien and Victoria in gossip magazines at the grocery store checkout aisle. Baby bump watch. $1 billion wedding plans. Most eligible bachelor off the market. Maya started to show at 16 weeks. She bought loose-fitting dresses, told her bosses she'd gained stress weight. Only Jess knew the truth. At her anatomy scan, the technician asked, "Do you want to know the sex?" Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the tiny human on the screen. It's a girl, the technician said softly. A healthy baby girl. A daughter. Maya placed her hand on her rounded belly and made a promise. I will never let you feel less than anyone. I don't care if your father is a billionaire who didn't want us. You are mine, and you are enough. But late at night, Maya couldn't help wondering, did Damien think about her at all? Did he ever regret that morning? Or had she been so forgettable that he'd moved on to Victoria without a second thought? Victoria Ashford stared at her reflection in the floor-length mirror of her penthouse bathroom, adjusting the silicone pregnancy bump strapped to her stomach. It looked real enough, expensive Hollywood-grade prosthetic that moved like actual skin. She'd pay $20,000 for it, but it was worth every penny. She wasn't pregnant. She couldn't get pregnant. A riding accident at 19 had destroyed that possibility forever. But Damien didn't know that. Nobody knew, except her doctor and the therapist she'd stopped seeing when he started asking uncomfortable questions about her plan. Victoria had loved Damien since college, had fully expected to marry him. But he'd broken up with her 8 years ago, said he needed to focus on building his company, that he couldn't give her the attention she deserved. Translation, she wasn't enough. He'd dated casually since then, never anyone serious, and Victoria had waited, watched, believed they'd eventually find their way back to each other. Then she'd seen him at that charity gala 3 months ago, looking at some plain, dark-haired hotel employee like she hung the moon. Victoria had followed them discreetly, watched them sneak out together, felt rage burn through her veins. She'd had investigators track the girl, Maya Rodriguez, nobody special, nobody who deserved Damien. But Victoria was smart. She didn't confront them. Instead, she'd waited 2 weeks, then accidentally run into Damien at his favorite coffee shop. She'd been warm, funny, reminded him of the good times they shared, suggested dinner for old time's sake. He'd agreed, probably out of guilt. During that dinner, Victoria had been charming, supportive, everything a man drowning in corporate stress needed. She didn't push, didn't demand, just planted seeds. They started meeting regularly, coffee, lunch, drinks, friendly, until one night, after he'd had a few too many bourbons, he'd admitted he'd been with someone. I ruined it, he said miserably. I panicked. I do that, push people away before they can leave first. That's when Victoria saw her opportunity. She'd hired another private investigator to follow Maya. When she got the report, Maya purchasing pregnancy tests, visiting an OBGYN, Victoria nearly screamed with joy. This was perfect, better than perfect. Victoria had called Damien the next day, voice shaking with fake excitement. I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. It's yours. They'd slept together once, 7 weeks ago, after too much wine at her place. He barely remembered it. The shock on his face had been gratifying, then the fear, then slowly the acceptance. We'll figure it out, he said, ever the responsible one. I'll be there for you, for the baby. Now, 6 weeks later, they were engaged. She had a ring on her finger, a fake bump on her stomach, and Damien's complete trust. But she had a problem. She needed an actual baby. Maya was 5 months pregnant and running out of places to hide. She'd quit her hotel job when her manager started asking pointed questions about her weight gain. She was down to 2 jobs now, early morning shifts at a diner and evening shifts cleaning offices. The money was tight, but she was managing. Barely. She was leaving the diner after her shift, exhausted and craving the egg rolls from the Chinese place next door, when she literally bumped into someone. Again. Maya was starting to think she had a target on her back. I'm sorry, She looked up and froze. Victoria Ashford stood before her, perfect and glowing, one hand on her designer bag and the other resting on her pregnant belly. Maya Rodriguez, Victoria said, her smile sharp as glass. We haven't officially met. I'm Victoria, Damien's fiancée. Maya's hand instinctively went to her own stomach, hidden under a loose cardigan. I know who you are. Victoria's eyes tracked the movement. Her smile widened. Do you? That's good. Because I know who you are too. The hotel girl from the gala, the little fling Damien had before he came back to me. Heat flooded Maya's face. I don't know what you want, but I want you to stay away from him, Victoria interrupted, stepping closer. Her perfume was expensive, cloying. Whatever you think happens between you two, it's over. He's with me now. We're starting a family. She patted her stomach. He's going to be a wonderful father to our child. Our child. The words hit Maya like a slap. She wanted to scream that Damien was going to be a father to her child too, that Victoria didn't own him, but what was the point? Victoria had everything. Damien's love, his commitment, his future. Maya was just a memory he'd paid to forget. Don't worry, Maya said quietly. I have no intention of interfering with your happy ending. She walked away before Victoria could respond, before the tears could fall. She made it 2 blocks before she had to stop, one hand on a building wall, the other cradling her belly as she sobbed. Her daughter kicked, small flutters like butterfly wings. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I'm so sorry your father doesn't want us. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Something about Victoria's smile bothered her. It hadn't been triumphant or smug. It had been calculating, like Maya was a problem to be solved. At 2 a.m., on a hunch she couldn't explain, Maya did something she'd avoided for months. She Googled Victoria Ashford. Society pages, gossip columns, charity galas. Then, buried on page 6 of search results, she found something interesting. A brief mention in an old college newspaper about Victoria's riding accidents and subsequent hospitalization. The article was light on details, but one line caught my eye. Miss Ashford is expected to make a full recovery, though doctors say her injuries may affect future childbearing. Maya sat up in bed, her heart racing. May affect future childbearing. Could Victoria actually not be pregnant? Maya spent 2 weeks investigating, feeling like a crazy stalker but unable to let it go. She created a fake social media account and joined online communities for women who'd experienced similar injuries. The stories she read chilled her. Scarring, damage to reproductive organs, infertility. Of course, every case was different, but the pattern was clear. She needed proof, but what could she do? Break into Victoria's penthouse and steal her medical records? Confront Damien with her suspicions and sound like a jealous ex trying to sabotage his relationship? The decision was made for her when Jess showed her an Instagram post. Victoria and Damien's engagement party was happening this Saturday at the Grand Meridian Hotel. Of course it was. The universe really did have a sense of irony. Don't even think about it, Jess warned. Going there would be torture. But Maya couldn't stop thinking about it. About Victoria's calculating smile. About Damien not knowing he was being deceived. About her daughter, who deserved a father who knew she existed. Saturday arrived too quickly. Maya dressed carefully, a flowing maxi dress that hid her now obvious bump, her hair down to partially obscure her face. She paid the taxi driver with money from her emergency fund and walked into the hotel where she'd once worked, where this whole mess had started. The ballroom was transformed into a winter wonderland. White flowers, crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures. 200 guests in designer clothes sipped champagne and congratulated the happy couple. Maya hid behind a pillar, watching Damien laugh with Victoria. His hand on her back, she looked radiant in an ice blue gown, her bump perfectly showcased. Maya was about to leave. This was stupid. What did she expect to accomplish? When she heard Victoria's voice, sharp and low from behind a nearby curtained alcove, Maya froze. Yes, everything is going exactly as planned, Victoria was saying into her phone. The wedding is in 3 weeks. That little hotel girl is 7 months along now if my investigator is correct. Once she gives birth, I'll arrange to take custody. Damien will never know it wasn't mine all along. The timeline is close enough that he won't question it. Maya's blood turned to ice. Take custody? Victoria knew about her pregnancy, her daughter, everything, and she was planning to steal her baby. She's nobody. No resources, no support system. It'll be easy to intimidate her into giving up parental rights. Or I'll just pay her off. Everyone has a price. And if she refuses, well, accidents happen, especially to single mothers with no one watching out for them. Maya's vision blurred with rage and fear. She stepped out from behind the curtain, no longer caring about staying hidden. "You sick bitch," she said loudly. Victoria spun around, her face going white. The conversation in the nearby area died. People turned to stare. And then, a sharp wetness between Maya's legs. Pain, sudden and shocking, radiating from her abdomen. She looked down at the puddle forming at her feet, at Victoria's horrified face, at the guests backing away. Her water had broken. Maya gasped as another contraction hit, this one taking her breath away. "I need a hospital." The crowd parted, and through her pain, Maya saw Damien running toward her, his face pale with shock and something else. Recognition. Maya? Everything happened in a blur. Damien was suddenly there, his arms around her, shouting orders. Someone called 911. Victoria was screaming something about stress and the baby, her baby. But no one was paying attention because Maya was collapsing, another contraction ripping through her with savage intensity. "I've got you," Damien said, and Maya wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Now he's got me? Now? After 7 months of silence and $100 bills and engagement parties? But there was no time for anger, because her body was demanding all her attention. The paramedics arrived. How did they get there so fast? And she was being loaded onto a stretcher. Damien tried to get into the ambulance. "Family only," the paramedic said. "I'm the father," Damien shouted, and Maya's head spun toward him. His face was anguished, certain. Somehow he knew. Victoria appeared in the ambulance doorway, her face a mask of fury. "You're not going anywhere. We're having a baby." And then it happened. As Victoria lunged forward, trying to push past the paramedic, her dress caught on the stretcher. There was a ripping sound, and her pregnancy bump, that perfect rounded prosthetic, slipped, tilted, and fell to the floor of the ambulance with a hollow thud. Everyone froze. The fake silicone belly lay between them, obscenely obvious. Victoria's actual flat stomach was visible through her torn dress. "You..." Damien stared at Victoria, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, horror. "You're not pregnant." "I can explain." "Get away from her," Damien roared. "Get away from both of them." The door slammed shut, leaving Victoria screaming on the driveway. The ambulance lurched forward, sirens wailing. Damien knelt beside Maya's stretcher, his hand finding hers. She should pull away, should slap him, should tell him to go to hell. Instead, she squeezed back, because another contraction was building and she was terrified, and she needed someone, anyone, even him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "I tried. Fuck. You wouldn't take my calls." "What?" "Maya, I never got any calls. I would've..." He looked shattered. "I thought you didn't want to see me again. After I left that money, God, I'm such an idiot. I panicked. I thought you'd realize I wasn't worth your time." They reached the hospital. More blurs, bright lights, doctors asking questions. Damien refused to leave her side, even when the nurses tried to remove him. "I'm the father," he kept saying. "Please, let me stay." In the delivery room, between contractions that felt like being torn apart, Maya told him everything. The pregnancy test, her attempts to reach him, seeing his engagement announcement, the confrontation with Victoria. He listened, tears streaming down his face, holding her hand like a lifeline. "I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I was a coward. I thought..." His voice cracked. "My father walked out on us when I was 5. I swore I'd never be like him, but I've been running from anything real my whole adult life. You scared me because you made me feel something I couldn't control. Damien, I need to push." 13 hours after her water broke at Victoria's engagement party, Maya gave birth to a 6-pound, 9-ounce baby girl with her father's gray eyes and her mother's defiant spirit. The moment the doctor placed her on Maya's chest, skin to skin, the entire world realigned. "She's perfect," Damien breathed, tears streaming freely now. He touched their daughter's tiny hand with trembling fingers, and she immediately gripped his thumb. "She's absolutely perfect." "Isla," Maya whispered, the name she'd chosen months ago. "Her name is Isla." "Isla," Damien repeated reverently, like a prayer. The next 72 hours were a cocoon of exhaustion and wonder. Damien never left the hospital. He slept in the uncomfortable chair beside Maya's bed, learned to change diapers, paced the halls at 3 a.m. with the screaming Isla so Maya could sleep. He called lawyers, dealt with the explosive scandal of Victoria's deception. Apparently she'd been arrested for fraud and was facing multiple charges, and fielded calls from his frantic assistant. But mostly, he just stared at his daughter, like she was a miracle he didn't deserve. On the 3rd day, when Maya was being discharged, Damien asked quietly, "Can I take you both home?" "Not to my place," he added quickly. "To wherever you're staying. I don't want to miss anything else." Maya looked at him, really looked at him, at the stubble on his jaw, the exhaustion in his eyes, the way he cradled Isla like she was made of spun glass. "I live in a 400-square-foot apartment with a roommate," she said. "There's no room for you." "Then let me find us a place, all of us. Please, Maya. I know I don't deserve another chance, but she deserves a father who's present, who tries. He met her eyes. And I want to try, not just for her, for you, because I haven't stopped thinking about you since that night. I just convinced myself I'd ruined everything. You did ruin everything, Maya said, but her voice was softer. And this isn't some fairy tale where everything magically gets fixed because there's a baby. I know. But can it be the beginning of something real? Something we build together, mess-ups and all? Maya looked at Isla, sleeping peacefully in her car seat, tiny chest rising and falling. Her daughter deserved a chance at a whole family. And maybe, so did Maya. Okay, she whispered, but you're doing all the 2 a.m. feedings this week. Damien's answering smile was brighter than the sun. 1 year later. Maya pushed the stroller through Central Park, autumn leaves crunching under the wheels. Isla babbled happily, pointing at dogs and birds with chubby fingers. Behind them, Damien carried their picnic basket, arguing with Maya about whether grilled cheese counted as a sophisticated lunch option. It's artisanal bread and imported cheese, he insisted. It's still grilled cheese, Billionaire boy. That's Mr. Billionaire boy to you, Miss Rodriguez. Or should I say, future Mrs. Cross? Maya glanced at the modest diamond on her left hand. Modest by billionaire standards, anyway. He'd proposed properly this time, 3 months ago, on their apartment balcony after Isla had finally gone to sleep. No photographers, no press releases, just him on one knee, asking if she'd build a life with him. They weren't perfect. They still fought about his tendency to throw money at problems and her stubborn insistence on independence. They were both still learning how to trust, how to be vulnerable, how to parent a strong-willed toddler who'd inherited both their stubborn streaks. But they were real, messily, imperfectly real. Isla took her first wobbly steps on the grass, arms outstretched. Both parents lunged forward, but she didn't need them. She walked 4 steps on her own before plopping down on her diaper, laughing triumphantly. "Did you see that?" Maya breathed. "I got it on video," Damien said, already texting it to her phone. "Send it to your mom?" "Already done." They looked at each other and grinned, that grin of exhausted parents celebrating milestones. As they packed up to head home, Maya's phone buzzed with a news alert. Victoria Ashford sentenced to 18 months for fraud, the headline read. Maya deleted it without reading more. That chapter was closed. "Ready to go home?" Damien asked with Isla on his hip. Home. Their home. The 3-bedroom apartment they'd chosen together that was filled with Isla's toys and Maya's books and Damien's terrible coffee maker. Not his penthouse or her cramped studio, but something they'd built together. "Yeah, let's go home," Maya said, lacing her fingers through his free hand. Maya and Damien's journey proves that even the biggest mistakes can lead to the most beautiful blessings. Thanks for watching. Like, leave a comment, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories like this.